Stocks trade in a narrow range ahead of the F&O expiry on the NSE. Realty and metal stocks gain while IT and FMCG are the big drags. The mid-caps fare slightly better. Secretary in the Ministry of Steel, Sandeep Pondrik, says that a decision on the safeguard duty on steel is expected soon. This even as he sees supply expanding ahead of demand over the next 3 to 4 years. The stock of restaurant brands Asia, the owner of Burger King franchise in India and Indonesia, jumps after CNBC TV 18 reports that promoter Everstone Capital may sell its 11.3% stake and exit the QSR player. The ash cloud from Haile Gubbi volcanic eruption in Ethiopia is crossing India and disrupting flights, with Akasa, Indigo and KLM reporting cancellations. The weather department, however, doesn't see any significant impact on air quality. Good afternoon, you're with us here on Business Lunch. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. I am Hormus Fatakia. It's been a quiet, range-bound day, fairly devoid of what you could call an monthly expiry session, but still have the last two, the very crucial last 2 hours of the trading session that are still left, as the actual action in the last two sessions has only transpired in the final 60 minutes of trade. And as of now, the Nifty trading in a very, very narrow band, as you can see on your screens. It's a 100-point range on the index. It's been oscillating between gains and losses all through the session today. Nothing much to write about here, but the broader markets is where the action is. The mid-cap index is off the highs of the day, and significantly at that, so 70 points higher. Now at one point the index was up 200, and we have been struggling with that market breadth over the last few trading sessions. And last evening as well, the markets had sold off sharply in the mid-caps and the small-cap space, and that line on the advance decline, which was slightly beginning to widen in favor of the advances, has started to converge again. So 1,500 stocks that are advancing in comparison to 1,335 stocks on the NSE that are trading lower. The one stock that has kept the Nifty in the green is Reliance Industries. There's another positive note that came in from JP Morgan earlier in the day, highlighting 3 key triggers going forward for the stock in 2026. And that one is contributing to the gains on the index. But the other stock that is in focus, the top gainer on the Nifty today, is Dr. Reddy's, and that is after the European Union's drug regulator gave its approval for the to market the denosumab, which is used to treat osteoporosis. Ekta is here with more details on this. Ekta.
Well, yes, Dr. Reddy's is in focus because the European Commission has granted marketing authorization for AV203, which is basically a biosimilar version of the biologic drug Prolia, which is denosumab, and also Xgeva, which is also denosumab. Basically, it's the same drug but is used for different conditions, hence marketed differently. Now, Prolia is a prescription medicine which is used to treat osteoporosis, whereas Xgeva is a prescription medicine which is used to prevent bone complications in adults. The European Commission decision, remember, follows a positive opinion from the Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use, which took place in September of 2025. So this is following that. Now, Dr. Reddy's has basically licensed this product from Alvotech, which is the developer. Dr. Reddy's is the commercial partner with semi-exclusive rights both for Europe as well as UK. Analysts say that this is basically a positive development for their European operations.
Top Nifty gainer, Dr. Reddy's, 1.5% higher on the stock. Ekta, thank you for that update. Now, earlier today, Sandeep Pondrik, the Secretary of the Ministry of Steel, told CNBC TV 18 that the government's decision on safeguard duties is expected soon. He added that he expects a pickup in demand as well. Listen in to his comments.
Safeguard duty. As you know that there is a process which was conducted by DGTR. And on the recommendation of DGTR, the provisional duty was imposed, which was effective till early November, 6-7 November. After that, the provisional duty has lapsed. However, DGTR has also recommended a safeguard duty for 3 years, which is under consideration with the government. So we can expect a decision pretty soon. There have been decisions to relax some quality control orders on BIS standards for a specific time. So for some standards, we have relaxed it, rather suspended the QCO for 3 years. For some, we have suspended the QCO for 1 year. It's also, for example, that in specialty steel, since we don't have production in certain grades, and specialty grades have to be imported, so we have relaxed, suspended the QCO for a year, and we hope that the domestic capacity will come by that time. So it's basically to balance the interests of both steel industry and the consumer industry both. Short term, there may be some stress on demand supply ratio, and we may have more supply than the demand for next 3 to 4 years. But I expect that the demand will catch up with supply as we move forward. So to answer your question in last one line, yes, I expect that the demand will continue to rise between 8 to 10%. The steel prices right now are at quite low level, and as the demand increases in coming months, I would presume that 26 the prices would stabilize.
Take a short break, but a quick programming note before that. If you are looking for the big bets and market themes for 2026, CNBC TV 18 Access gives you direct access to White Oak Capital AMC's Ashish Somaya and Prashant Khemka as they share their winning market themes and actionable investment strategies. You can ask your questions live on the 28th of November at 1:30 p.m. Become a member today on the CNBC TV 18 app or log on to cnbctv18.com/access/plans. Welcome back. Now, India has a new labour law regime in place where 29 laws have been repealed or rationalised into 4 new labour codes. The aim is to modernise the legal framework, extend social security to a wider workforce and ensure universal wage protection. Now, Labour Secretary Vandana Gurnani told us that a committee would be formed to fix the floor rates soon. Listen into what she had to say.
Floor wage was there earlier also. However, it was not mandatory. It was an optional kind of a floor wage which Government of India used to fix at regular intervals. Now, as per the new codes, the floor wage is going to be having a statutory backing, which means it's mandatory and no state should fix their minimum wage below the floor wage. The floor wage would, as you said, look into the minimum living standards, and there would be a committee of experts that would be deciding on what should be the floor wage, and these would be periodically revised upwards. A lot of factories would have slightly less than 100 workers directly employed and rest through contractors, so that they could not come in the ambit of this condition. Now this has been increased to 300, so which means that up to 300 the companies would be now encouraged to take people on direct roles with themselves instead of taking them through contract, because it's only about 300 that they would need to take permission for any retrenchment, layoff or closure from the government. So this, in a way, this actually increases or encourages formalization, and this is an aspect that needs to be understood more clearly.
Now, the Supreme Court has agreed to quash criminal proceedings against former Sterling Biotech promoters Nitin and Chetan Sandesara. This after they agreed to a 5,100 crore rupee settlement in a bank fraud case. The court observed that if the petitioners are ready to deposit, criminal proceedings will not serve any useful purpose. Ashmit is joining in with more on this. Ashmit, what do you make of this development, and is it likely to set a precedent?
Well, indeed, it's not every day that we have the Supreme Court saying that if you're about to pay X amount of money, we're happy to close the investigation. We don't see that every day, and therefore, again, very valid questions being raised about whether or not this sets a precedent. That's a question we'll circle back to towards the end of this. But before that, as far as the facts of this case are concerned, 2017 is when a bank fraud case was registered against former promoters of Sterling Group. Bank fraud case, that figure in question was about 5,300 crore rupees. Soon after the registration of this FIR, the CBI investigation, ED investigation, the promoters eloped to Nigeria. They have a very successful oil business running out of Nigeria. But while they've been in Nigeria, they've been pursuing developments here in the Indian courts before the Indian banks, asking for a settlement of those dues. And to their credit, they have coughed up a sum of about 3,500 crore rupees. And since then, they've essentially been pleading before the apex court that, look, if we are ready to pay back the money, why not close the investigation? That was their prayer. That was their relief that they had sought. And similar questions were then asked by the court of the CBI. The question being asked is that what purpose will this criminal investigation serve? If the money is coming back, it is after all at the end of the day an issue of public money. If it's coming back, no useful purpose will be served with this criminal investigation. So it is after that prod, that nudge by the apex court, that the CBI came back with that magic figure of 5,100 crore rupees. That figure was submitted in a sealed cover, and nonetheless that figure appears to have found traction with the apex court, with the former promoters as well, and they've come back and they've agreed to that, and basis that agreement from the promoters, Supreme Court saying that provided that money is paid up, 5,100 crore rupees, the Supreme Court is happy. They want to settle and they want to quash all the ongoing investigations as far as the Sterling promoters are concerned. But as far as to coming back to whether this sets a precedent, the interesting caveat that the apex court has added is that these findings, these directions are only for the peculiar facts and circumstances of this particular case.
Ashmit, thank you for that update. Now, a sudden eruption of the long-dormant Haile Gabi volcano in Ethiopia has resulted in the spread of massive clouds of volcanic ash across West Asia and the Indian subcontinent. The volcano, which erupted after being silent for over 10,000 years, sent plumes of smoke and dust almost 14 to 15 kilometers into the atmosphere. The dense cloud of volcanic ash has disrupted aviation and in and around the region, with airlines suspending several flights bound for West Asia. Madiha is here to give us more details on this. Madiha.
Well, Hormuz, like you were mentioning, it's a volcanic eruption in Ethiopia, and that has sent a massive ash cloud into the upper atmosphere. Strong winds in the region are pushing the ash eastward into air routes that connect India with the Middle East and European countries. So the ash clouds that originated in Ethiopia started flowing towards Yemen, Oman, Arabian Sea, Western India, and then climbed towards North India. And as per ATC sources, they are now flowing towards the Himalayas and China. The height at which these ash clouds are is between 25,000 to 45,000 feet, and flights generally fly at 35,000 feet. So the DGCA, the aviation regulator, has issued an advisory for pilots, flight dispatchers, and the air traffic controllers to guide the pilots so that they avoid these clouds, to stay away from any turbulence. It has had some impact on flights, like you mentioned. Not a major one right now, but few international flights have been cancelled. So at Mumbai airport, what we learn is that since midnight, 6 international arrival flights and 5 international departure flights have been cancelled. And in Delhi, 7 international flights, including arrivals and departures, have been cancelled for the day so far. Some flights have also been delayed. Now, the clouds might even evaporate and disappear and move away from the Indian airspace. But as of now, this is the update we have from our sources.
That explains the hazy atmosphere that we are experiencing here in Mumbai as well, along with the heat, which has returned after a bit of a cool weather that had set in at the end of November. We'll take a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. Now, in a rare layoff exercise, Apple has announced job cuts across sales teams to strengthen its customer engagement efforts. The affected jobs included account managers serving major businesses, schools and government agencies, as well as the staff who operate Apple's briefing centers for institutional meetings and product demonstrations for prospective major customers. Employees who have lost their jobs have until the 20th of January next year to secure another position within the company, or they will be terminated with a severance package. Meanwhile, the AI race continues to heat up in the US in a bid to rival Gemini and ChatGPT. Anthropic has launched a Claude Opus 4.5, its most powerful AI model yet. Here's a report.
Anthropic is launching its most powerful model yet. It's called Opus 4.5, and it is the new flagship of the Claude family, built for advanced coding, agentic workflows, and enterprise tasks like financial modeling. The update includes new Excel and Chrome tools and a feature called Infinite Chat that prevents memory cutoffs in long conversations. And it comes as Anthropic commits more than $80 billion to compute over the next decade, including a new spend commitment with Microsoft Azure and its own custom-made data centers across the United States. But in terms of this model race, some would argue that Anthropic's chief rival is now Google. Gemini 3, it hit the top of the benchmarks last week.
Now, US President Donald Trump on Sunday posted on Truth Social that he spoke to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. He said that both leaders discussed many topics, including Ukraine and Russia, fentanyl, soybeans, and other farm products. Trump also remarked that the US's relationship with China remains extremely strong. He also accepted President Xi's invitation to visit Beijing in April of 2026 and added that Xi will be his guest at the White House later next year. Meanwhile, the Chinese readout of the phone call mainly focused on Taiwan. Here's a report.
Both sides emphasize very different things in terms of summarizing the call, which reflects their respective priorities. And according to Beijing's readout, Taiwan here was the key issue. And this strong focus does make it unusual. And of course, this is happening as we see tensions ratcheting up between China and Japan over the Taiwan issue. And Xi, on this phone call, pressed Trump on the Taiwan issue. According to Xinhua News Agency, President Xi said Taiwan's, quote, return to China is an integral part of the post-war international order. And Beijing also said that Trump stressed that the U.S. understands that the Taiwan question is very important to China. And according to the Wall Street Journal, President Xi was the one who made the outreach for this call, citing people close to Beijing and calling it a rare diplomatic overture from China. And Beijing does view Taiwan as its own territory, while Taiwan's government rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims. And the U.S. has been governed by its approach to Taiwan, which is the one China policy. So Trump's readout on Truth Social, though, did not mention Taiwan, and this omission is telling as well. And they did both acknowledge talking about Ukraine, and Xi Jinping said he hoped, quote, various sides would narrow their differences and reach a fair and binding peace agreement. But again, both Taiwan and Ukraine being discussed here, both highly sensitive issues, does make this call unusual.
Now, Tata Motors has launched the new Sierra today. The model marks the revival of the Sierra, which was discontinued way back in 2003. The car boasts of triple screens, including petrol, diesel and electric variants, and has a 6-door layout. Bookings for the car are expected to start soon. A lot of childhood nostalgia there when you talk of Tata Sierra, only synonymous to the Tata Sumo that we used to watch growing up. We take a leave on this edition of Business Lunch from me and the team. Thank you for watching. Midcap Radar on the other side.